Well, I think I showed you this yesterday, but I have started on making my dog food. So I had some meat simmering, the leftover meat from the beef that I canned, and I put in a package of liver. Back on the stove, I have had the liver and the meat left over from yesterday simmering in some water. In the smaller pan over there, and I'll show you, I had a pint jar of dehydrated pumpkin powder. I took some broth from the liver that I'm cooking down, and I put the pumpkin powder in there, and also about maybe a half a cup of rolled oats, and I've got those simmering in there and rehydrating the pumpkin powder. Also, I took the leftover broth from yesterday. I think there was, oh, I don't remember now, 16 or 18 cups of broth, and I added brown rice and made a huge batch of rice. I'm getting everything together. I'll get it mixed up and canned and in the canner. Let's go over and take a look at what I've got on the stove. Now, disregard the mess. I've been doing a lot of projects today. My sink is full of dirty dishes, and I'm making butter right now as I'm working between the meat. Okay, right here is my big roasting pan, and this is the pan I made the rice in. This filled the pan, so I'm gonna make a half a batch at a time. Now I know it doesn't, oh, gee whiz, I guess that should be warm. It's simmering. This has got the rolled oats and the pumpkin powder, and then here's the meat. And this is the broth I used for the rolled oats and pumpkin powder. I have chopped up about, it's kind of chopped, kind of ground up, about half of that liver. And I just did it in my food processor. Now I still have in this pan the meat scraps from the meat video that I did. So it's still got some broth. I'm gonna put half of it into the rice and liver mixture. I think the dogs are gonna like this. A lot of meat, a lot of broth. Okay, put some more liquid in there. I do need to say that they don't recommend canning rice because it gets all yucky and gooey, but you know what? The dogs are gonna love it. That's the reason you want to pre-cook your rice before you can it. Don't put it in dry. This is the pumpkin powder, the rolled oats that I used in the meat broth off of the liver. So I'm gonna put half of that in here. So we've got rice, a little bit of rolled oats, quite a bit of meat for this concoction, and pumpkin. And then I have a bag of mixed vegetables, frozen mixed vegetables, and I'm gonna put about half of this bag in there. I'm gonna mix it all up, and then I'm gonna put it in my jars. I'm going to use quart jars, mostly because I have more quart jars than I do pints, and we have a huge dog. So between our little dog and the cats are gonna love this, we'll probably go through a quart of this stuff in 2 days. I gotta say, this smells pretty good actually, except that I don't like liver. So I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it, a half a bag of vegetables. This has got corn, carrots, peas, and green beans. Let's move over. Here you can see what I've got, and I'm just gonna get it all mixed up as best I can. And when I get ready to can this, it will be canned. You always can for what's the longest. And in this case, meat takes the longest, so that means it will be canned, since it's in quarts, for 90 minutes. And for my area, it's 15 pounds pressure. So, you know, and the thing of it is, this is all very healthy, and even You know, even humans can eat it if you had to. And there's not too many dog food. Doesn't look the best, does it? But I suppose if somebody was hungry enough, they would eat it. Now, I'm not putting any, definitely no onions. Dogs cannot have onions. But I'm not putting any kind of seasoning or spices or any of that. It looks like I've got this pretty well mixed up. I may end up adding a little broth or water once I get it in the jars, but I'm going to take a look and see. I also want to add some sweet potatoes with this, and I'll add that liquid. A while back I had canned some up. I actually did a video on it, and they just turned to mush, so I'm not happy. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the dog food too. Okay, I've got everything over here set up and ready to go. I'm just going to start filling my jars. I'm going to go ahead and get all the jars filled. I talked to you for quite a while, and then I forgot to push the record button. Sounds like me, right? But anyway, I'll get my jars filled up, and I'll come back when they're full. I'm going to leave 1-inch headspace, and I am going to use my debugger to make sure that I don't have any empty spaces in there. I added 2 pints of sweet potatoes that I had canned up earlier. And so what have I got? Rice, rolled oats, sweet potatoes, pumpkin, mixed vegetables, and of course a lot of meat. So let's get it all canned up and ready to put in the canner. I've got all 7 jars full, well, almost full. And I didn't have quite enough to fill them completely full. And this just looks pretty thick to me. And I know cooking it's gonna make it thicker. So, you know, and dog food is thick when it comes out of the can. But I'm gonna go ahead and add maybe about 1/4 cup of water. And then I'm going to, you know, work it through with the debubbler like you do. And if I end up with too much water, I'll just take it off the top. But so far, in this first jar, I had it this far from the top, and working it with the debubbler, I like the consistency better. And it's, yeah, it's right now right about 1 inch from the top. Got them all filled up. They're within 1 inch. I've got 1 inch of headspace. Probably added about 1/4 cup of water, or maybe a little more. I've got my little thing of white vinegar. So I'm gonna go around and clean off the top of each jar. And I'm using vinegar because it's meat, and I did keep the fat in it, so we gotta make sure there's no fat on this. I'm gonna get all 7 jars cleaned off. You're just gonna have to excuse the way I look. We've been going in and out all day, moving water and working out in the yard. So I pause everything, run out, we do a little bit, and then I'm coming back in. I've got all the jars cleaned off, and now I'm gonna add my 4 jars lids. Don't forget, get your canning lids, guys. We're having lid shortages again. I was in my local store, they had plenty of jars. I even saw some rings, but no lids. So if you use my code, Farmer's Wife, you get a 10% discount. And I have had excellent luck with these lids. I'm very happy with them. The information will be in the description box below. Okay, I've got the lids on. Now I'm going to put the ring on, tighten it finger tight, and into the canner. So I'm going to go ahead and get all 7 jars loaded, and then we'll come back and you know the routine. Okay, I took the leftover vinegar that was in that little cup and poured it into the water in my canner. That'll help prevent the white minerals from building up on your jars. I've got a little bit of olive oil on this paper towel, and I just went around the rim of the canner with that. And here's my lid, and I'm just gonna go around the lip of the lid, same thing. These are all American, so they don't have the rubber seal, and that's how you keep your seal good. Every time before you get ready to can, you need to look through the vent hole, make sure that it's clear and there's no food obstructing it. I always wash my canning canner after every canning session and check this just to make sure. All right, on the All-American, there's a little indentation here on the canner, and there's an arrow on the lid. Those need to line up, and you just twist it into place. I'm gonna turn my heat on high, and then from there, you just bring up these wing nuts, and you go crisscross. You don't tighten them down, you just kind of put them up here, so you can make sure you get a good seal all the way around. And then after you have all 6 up, then you go around and make sure they're good and tight. Going opposite. All right, now I'm gonna let my canner come up to temperature, and once this vent starts venting steam, I'm gonna let it vent steam for 10 minutes before I put my weight on. It's the next morning. After my canner cooled off last night, I removed the dog food that I had canned up, and as soon as I took the lid off, I knew what I did wrong. I had 3 that didn't seal, and it's not the lids, it was the user. I actually overfilled the jars. I should have known better, but I thought 1-inch headspace would be enough. I had 4 jars that sealed, and the others that didn't seal, I could see where it all ran over the top, and so I have cleaned those jars up. One of them we're going to feed to the dogs right away. The others I'm going to reprocess. But I have 7 jars that I got ready last night, so we'll be starting cold again. But I left 1-inch headspace. So what I'm going to do this morning is I'm going to go through and remove and leave at least 1.5 inches, maybe a little bit more, on each of these jars and the jars that didn't seal, and I'm going to reprocess. It'll be the same thing I did yesterday. I'm only going to reprocess 2 of the quart jars that didn't seal, and our dogs are eating that right now. And I tell you what, guys, they love this dog food. They scarf it right down, and it smells pretty good. So I'm going to start taking off some of the product that I have in the jars already and get them ready and get them processed. I'll show you my finished products when I'm done. Well, I don't know if I'm going to call this little dog food canning session a success or a failure. Not really a failure. It's very good. The dogs love it. But I didn't get it all to seal properly. And it definitely was not the problem of the lids. It was the user. I overfilled them. So on the second batch, I probably left 1.5 inches of headspace. And I plan to do this again in the winter when things are cooler and better for canning. So we'll come back and try it again. But I am going to use pints. Other people that I've seen do it said they used pints, and I'm thinking maybe I just have too much volume in a quart jar. The ones that didn't seal, I have put them in quart freezer bags, and they're in the freezer. This ends this little video, and I'm ready to go on to the next. And remember, get your 10% discount at 4 jars. I'll leave the information below. Use my discount code, Farmer's Wife. Happy canning!